Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning back in. I really appreciate all your kind comments and words of encouragement on the channel. It means a lot to me. We're back with an episode of What Makes This Run Great. And I'm super excited to have my teammate, Mike Hwang, here. He just came back from winning the Extreme IPSC Open in Florida. He actually won that last year as well. So he was able to defend his title, and that is so hard to do. Super proud of him. The stage we're going to analyze today is from USPSA Area 2 Championship last year. At the end of the season, he won that. We got a good stage to break down, and I want to introduce Mike. Mike, how are you doing?
Good, Travis. Good. Thanks for having me on again.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your willingness to share your time and your information and your stage and get the videos for me. And it's just, I'm super excited. This is a great way for me to learn, and it's awesome.
I love talking about this stuff, so it is my pleasure.
Excellent, excellent, Mike. And this was, I had that right. This is Area 2 Championship from not too long ago.
Yep, in November, I believe, of last year.
November.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. And it's a good mix of paper. We got steel. We got some positions.
Yep.
We got some stuff to break down. So I'd like to bring up, let's go ahead and bring up the first person view first, and we'll let everybody get acclimated with the stage.
Cool.
Okay, here we go.
Stand by. If you are
So, all right.
I really wanted to hit that steal.
I know you did. You smoked that run. All right, let's watch this in third person.
Okay.
Okay. Woo. Awesome, awesome. Oh, here's the results from that stage, guys.
Yep.
So Mike won this run. Okay, he won this stage with his hit factor was an 8.0599. He had, and this is really cool. I think there's actually something to learn here, Mike, if we look at it, because USAMU Aaron Eddins, national champion, was second place. You guys had the exact same time.
I mentioned this in the last podcast. Man, Aaron and I were just literally neck and neck for the entire second and third days of the match. And this is maybe one of the better examples. Wow. Exact same time, literally one delta off on this one that gave me just a couple of points there. So, yeah,
amazing.
It's really close. Really
yeah,
close.
So you both had 24 A's, and you both had 5 hits outside of the A zone. The difference is you had 5 C's, and he had 4 C's and a D.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, maybe if some of our viewers aren't tracking, and that's okay. Like this math, it took me a while, Mike, before I got into this. It was pretty funny. I was, I don't know, I was focused more on shooting and not so much the hit factors and stuff. But the cool thing about this is, so this is major power factor, 5 C's, you dropped 5 points. Mm-hmm. And the difference here is the D. I like to look at the hits instead of saying, well, you shot 5 C's, so that's 20, you earned 20 points. I look at it as though you lost 5, right? Mm-hmm. It's a smaller number.
Yeah.
And literally the difference on the stage is the D. And just to understand, the stage is worth 145 points. Mike earned all 145 because he won the stage. He's got the high hit factor. So those stage points go into like his match account, if you will. That's 145 points he gets, where Aaron was 142.9. And Mike, where was this stage in the match?
So this was actually my very last stage of the entire match. Yeah, so yeah, the pressure was on. I did know that I had a little bit of a cushion, so I knew that as long as I executed everything properly and no big mistakes were made, I knew that I could win the match. So I went in there wanting to stay aggressive. I didn't want to play it safe, but I wanted to make sure that, everything was pretty solid. It was a great run, other than the steel miss obviously cost me a decent amount of time. But, we'll go over all the little intricacies of the stage and everything. But at the end of the day, it was still a really good run, and I did what I needed to do to take the match. So, happy with that.
Beautifully said. And, 5 C's is all you drop there. That's what a great run to bring it home. Mike, did you happen to know going into this stage where you and Aaron were on the points wise in the overall?
I did, and I can't tell you right now what that differential was, but I did look. I do look going into the last few stages for sure of the match to know what I need to do or what I can do or what I need to push for or anything like that. So.
Awesome. So you were tracking it, and certainly there's a pressure that comes with the fact that if you don't do anything too stupid here, you take the victory. And to get to that point, guys, after a long match, big match like this with so much heat, is a big deal unto itself. And then to have Mike execute, that is awesome, incredible. So, Mike, let's play it in third person, and we'll start to break it down. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. Whenever I do my own stage analysis or analysis for anybody, I like to look at the third person first, and I watch it a few times. I think I got this from Steve Anderson, actually, but I'll watch it one time just to get an idea, and then I'll watch it again and only look at where my gun is pointing, and then I'll watch it again and only look at my footwork, and then I'll watch it a final time just to look at everything together again.
Ooh, that's good stuff. That's a good lesson right there. Yeah. So pick one area and focus on it. Otherwise, there's so much going on.
There's a lot going on. Maybe we can focus on my gun first on this first watch through.
Yes, good idea. Let's focus on your gun. And it's a table start, so the gun is on. Is there anything we need to know about the start?
Yeah, your hands had to be touching that little. The stage was called. Here, I have it pulled up. It was called Grab the Cash. So there was a little briefcase full of money, and your hands had to be touching that. But the gun was fully loaded on the table.
Okay. Oh, is this the Miami Vice match?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this again.
Got one more after.
So the most important thing I'm looking for here is gun being up, and if you want to just pause it right there on that, pause it right there in that other position. Let's call it position 3. So that was a really awkward position because you were kind of buried into that port. In position 2.
Yes.
You were really buried into that port, and then you had to back up and go around the wall. So it was kind of like your body was to the right, and you were looking to the left to hit that target. But then you had to back up and go to the left, and then go around that wall. So super weird. And if you look at the fault line, though, there wasn't much room. I couldn't fully extend my hands out on this position without hitting the wall. So my gun is just naturally up a little bit later than I had to because I had to clear the wall first.
Okay,
but
let's watch.
Yeah, I think I brought my gun up as soon as I could have.
Let's see how that looks. Yep. Yeah. The RO's a little bit in the way there, but I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here, I think my gun is up at an okay time.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just trying to get a picture in a few steps before I get to that position.
And one thing that I really like that you do here, Mike, look how you set up in this. And guys, there's a great takeaway here. He sets up favoring his lower body is favoring the right side of this position. And that's why his torso is at an angle to get those outside targets. Mm-hmm. But it lines you up, Mike, really well for the exit, I thought.
Exactly. And maybe in this review, since we've seen it a few times, maybe we can blend the looking at the gun and looking at the feet, because I was going to bring this up in the feet. But
yes.
You're absolutely right. I think that was one of the crucial parts of the stage is your footwork, and my footwork could use a lot of work for sure. But you can see that I'm reverse leaning out on that open target, so that when I'm transitioning, if you recall in the first person, it's a pretty wide transition to that no-shoot target on the left. So I need to make sure that my feet are in the right place to where I don't have to shuffle my feet too much. You will see me kind of adjusting here. My footwork's a little bit wobbly, but in general, I'm reverse leaning on this target so that I can just kind of lean my body the other way and have access to that target on the left.
Huge takeaway, Mike. And to do the reverse lean like this, you worked on this in the walkthrough, I assume?
I did. It's something I actually learned from JJ a couple of years ago, and it's something I've implemented, on countless stages, but mostly through ports or between thin walls where you have to enter a position and there's a target that's kind of on the right edge and on the left edge, and you have to access them without moving your feet. You call it the sector of fire. You want to make sure that all of the targets in your array are within your sector of fire.
Beautiful, guys. And I would, one of the ways that I quantify that is I take my big toes and run imaginary lines from my toes out to the berm. And I want to have all of the targets within those lines. That's the sector of fire. Mm-hmm. And what's the purpose of it, guys? It's to improve your target transitions. And you can encompass that entire array within your stance. And Mike is doing it here because this is actually a very wide it's a very wide transition to get to the inside target. Yeah. You did that nice. Let's look at that again, the setup for that.
Yeah, again, so not perfect because I still had to shuffle my feet a little bit. I probably didn't have to, but I did because my feet weren't as stable as I'd like to. But again, it was kind of an awkward position. I'm going 45 degrees back and then have to twist my whole body. So it was a little difficult, and you'll see that a few more times here as well. If you watch my feet, you'll see a little bit of instability, and I think that comes with a little bit of rushing from my side as well. I do think I rushed some of these targets, especially in this next array. If you watch this.
Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, in the real time, I got my hits there, but again, a little splitty, a little bit rushed. And I remember not being 100% on that last target. That last target on the left, there was a hardcover on the left side of it.
I see it.
And I was really aggressively entering on that target. So I was pretty sure that I got the alpha, maybe a Charlie on there. I shouldn't be getting a Charlie on the target though. But it was just a little splitty on there.
Okay, let's watch that and see what you mean. Okay. And Mike, I want to address, I'm trying to pause it here. Okay, go back. I want to talk about this because, guys, this is good technique here on the movement. Okay.
The penguin walk is pristine in that area.
No, but I want to bring up the fact that for a right-hander, moving right to left is awkward. But I want to show that what you've done here, and I highly recommend, is letting go of the gun with your support hand for two reasons in this instance. Number one, it's easier to maintain a safe muzzle direction. Number two, you use the support arm and hand to pump and to drive. It's not attached to the gun. So this is great technique. Another thing I really like here, Mike, is as you exited, this stage is pretty awkward too. There's
definitely a little bit awkward.
Yeah, a little bit awkward
positioning in this one.
Absolutely. As you left this, we'd call the third position right here, guys, look that he's already establishing an eye path on the next position, which is it's a long run, maybe, 15, 17 yards, around there, something like that. The eye path to me is important because, number one, it's establishing where you're going, but it creates an urgency for you to get there. A lot of people sort of blindly just look in the next direction. Mike is really keyed in here visually on where he's going. He lets go of the gun with the support hand. Now he's using that offhand to drive. Now this is a great setup. He's gone from looking at the position that he wants to go to. Now he's looking for the first target, and he's looking through the fence.
This is actually a really great still image as well because you can see that I'm starting to do some braking steps here, right? So you can see that my leg is out in front of me as opposed to maybe a little bit straight under me as if I was trying to do a full sprint. But you can see that I'm starting to kick my legs out to start braking here. Once I'm about 4 to 5 steps away, depending on the target. I'm going into an open target, so I want to settle and shoot it as I'm settling, right? So maybe a little bit earlier, maybe about 5 or so steps before I get there, I want to start braking.
Beautiful, Mike. And to that end, it's you're starting to re-grip the gun with your support hand.
Yep.
Which I think in a lot of ways signals that you've entered the decel phase. You're decelerating. You gained a lot of momentum out of that last position. Used iPath, let go of the gun, and you put all your energy into moving, which I think is those are great key takeaways. So now you're reestablishing your grip. Let's watch this whole entry and array, and then I'll bring it back. Awesome. Let's go back. Some things I really love here. Look at the gun. Mike could start shooting there. I mean, he's prepared to shoot guys before he gets there. That's key. Look at the angle. That left foot, the angle, the body, your weight right now, you're starting to lean back a little. It's almost like you're sitting back. All of that is to counter that momentum. That's really good deceleration technique. The gun is on line of sight, meaning you're pretty much on the dot at this point. And one thing that I encourage you guys when you're doing your stage analysis is, and critique yourself, is watch that Mike still has a little bit of momentum. He's still slightly moving when he breaks the first shot, just slightly. Excellent, excellent.
Yep, you can see that my left foot has landed, and I'm settling, still leaning a little bit left as I try to absorb that leftward momentum with my left leg as I'm shooting that open target. Now,
yes.
I will say one of my weaknesses is some of these entries I tend to shoot a little too early, especially when I'm coming in on a hard target. Like maybe say that was a tux or something. My dot is kind of in the brown, but I'm still settling, and I pull a shot and it's not a great shot, and sometimes I have to make a makeup. Sometimes it's just not a clear alpha called, and so there's a fine balance there between shooting too late and too early, right? So. But on this wide open target about 5, 6, 7 yards away, I can afford to fire that first shot off as I'm settling into that position. And then here's another example of that sector fire in this last position.
We know you have to do a reload here,
Yep.
Okay? And you're initiating you go for the magazine simultaneously with your exit step. And I'm a fan of that, getting the mag in your hand. Whether you decide to delay the insertion or whether you're doing immediate insertion, getting the mag in your hand now, getting a good grip on it. You don't look at the gun until the point of insertion. And another thing that I'm seeing a lot, I want to bring this up, guys. I see a lot of people, when they do a moving reload, they look down at the pouch. Never take your eyes off either where you're going or the mag well. Those are your two key points. So you'll see Mike, he's very aggressive. He's exploding out of here while doing a reload. Gun is up before he gets to the next position. Mike, look at your stance here. Can you tell me in terms of, this is a very wide array, if you would agree with that.
Very wide. That first target is directly almost 90 degrees. It's like 85 to 80 degrees to my left behind that barrel right there. And then the last target is about the same on the right. So it's almost a 180 degree array. And I need to, exactly like you were saying, my sector of fire, if you look at my toes where they're pointing, they should be encompassing all of the targets in my array to the best of my ability. Obviously in this situation, it's tough to do because, it's so wide. But if you actually see, on this position, I'm very happy with because I don't move my feet at all for the entire array. So
yeah. And this is where I want people to kind of get out of some of the traditional teachings of that whole shoulder width foot stance. It doesn't work here. There's something better. Look how wide you are. And that's gonna be conducive to a few things. Number one, your sector of fire is gonna be more broad. And number two, you're able to engage your legs on the transition to some extent. And your center of gravity is lowered as well, which is a key to in a lot of respects, as well as the entry of the position. You're aggressive, so you have a lower center of gravity to bleed some more of that momentum. And I should say, let me just say, your transitions in this array are absolutely blazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Sometimes I just get to a stand and shoot position, and I'm just ready to go on that array. And I think that's one of my strengths, is getting to a position and just blasting these wide arrays where you just go from target to target to target and just nailing them. So, yeah. But if you break down my stance a little bit more, I definitely prefer the wide stance, and I think part of that is I'm taller, and so I need a little bit more stability because I'm so tall. If I stand up straight, there's more room for me to wobble back and forth. Not too wide, right? Not like double my shoulder width. This is about maybe close to double, but I would say I've been doing some studying of other high-level shooters videos as well. I looked at a lot of Christian Styler's Nationals videos from this past year, and he's about 1.5 shoulder widths apart when he gets to a shooting position, give or take. I'm about 1.5 to 2 generally. And again, I think maybe that's just because my legs are a little bit longer. But you see how my thighs are about 45 degrees ish, right, bent. So you want to get low in your shooting position, which helps you torque for those transitions and allows you to get in and out of positions a little bit easier as well. And then you see my upper body's just slightly bent forward, right, to help absorb some of that recoil as well.
Beautiful, Mike. And just to bring that back up, guys, if you look at his shins, his shin angle, if it is straight up and down like this, how do you develop, like your structure, how do you develop strength to explode out of the position? Let's say he needed to go to this right after finishing here. He has got that. That's another reason I like the aggressive stance. And Mike, I'm like you, like I'm not as tall as you. I'm like maybe 5'10", but I'm 1.5 to 2 shoulder widths as well, depending on the target array. But I like to get that shin angle where it's that the knees are inside of the footprint. And then when you do apply power to that, like trail foot to get out of there, I feel that you're stronger and you can be more explosive.
Yeah, I think you can be a lot more explosive in this way. I know some other shooters like to stand up a little bit more straight, but for me this has worked, and it allows me to get in and out of positions faster. My knees are already bent, and the weight is already preloaded like a spring. So if I need to get out, I can kick off really hard, as opposed to having to drop down and then I feel like I'm getting rid of that drop down and spring up, because I'm already there. And lastly, I feel like if I need to make an adjustment, I can do that pretty easily because I'm already low and I can turn my body left and right using my knees if I need to.
Oh man, that totally makes sense. Yeah, big time. I wanted to back it up a little so we could see the context here of, got the reload, gun is up. You're building the sector of fire with your entry.
And watch my feet. Watch how you can't really see here anymore, but my feet do not move at all. Like complete stability in that last position.
That's huge. You work on this sector of fire to the point that it happens almost autonomously. It happens at a subconscious level because for one thing you're focused on here is your visual input. And you've already done all the work to know how you want to enter. You have your technique for that, and you have your technique for your sector of fire. So I assume also this is the last array in the match, and if you finish here good, you're going to win. Okay, so there's something completely different there. But I would believe right now you're focused probably mostly on your visual input.
The only thing I was thinking about on this array was get good hits on the no-shoot target, because I decided to enter on the no-shoot. And that's a whole other point. I don't think that was optimal, but I'll talk about that in a second here. But I came into the position as I was running through, and I ran, performed my reload, took a quick glance at the ground, at the fault line, and I said, I know I need my feet to be pretty close to the fault line and a wide sector fire. And then once I was approaching that area, my eyes are no longer there. My eyes are going straight to that no-shoot target, and my brain just spatially knows where my feet are going to go. Right, so you can't be staring at the fault line through stepping into that, because then you won't be ready to shoot the target. You have to work on that as well, right? Work on your timing there. So all I was thinking was get that dot on the top of the alpha line, right in the center, because that's where I want to be aiming on that no-shoot target. Yeah.
Outstanding point, Mike. And you picked, you would have picked out that that aiming spot. You would have picked that out in the walkthrough.
Exactly.
And did you visualize that at all?
I did, absolutely. And I dry fire that a ton. So in my first few years of shooting, I was deathly afraid of no-shoot targets. And Jacob Taylor, he doesn't shoot much anymore, but he had a lot of influence on my shooting as well. We shot together for about a year. And he's the one that told me, when I dry fire, grab a target, put a no-shoot to where the top of the no-shoot's halfway up the alpha zone, take a Sharpie and draw a big circle. So like if this is the alpha zone, draw a circle right there at the top center of the alpha line. So the no shoot's here, and that is where you aim whenever you shoot a no shoot. Give or take a little bit depending on how much the no shoot is invading onto the target itself. But if you aim there, if you're slightly high, you might get a close Charlie. If you're slightly low, you still have plenty of alpha to get. And so that's worked for me pretty well.
Great stuff. I like that. That's a really good thing, and you can do that at home, guys. That's easy to do, and you're adding in that specificity. Like Mike isn't just shooting the available target; he's literally shooting a very small portion of the available target
Most of the time. and after taking Eric's class, I may even bring that that black circle just slightly lower as well now, right? Give myself a little bit more leeway to collect those alphas, even on a no-shoot target, right? Higher level shooters, or shooters of all calibers, can nail 2 alphas on a no-shoot target all day. That's maybe something that I can tweak, so I can collect those 2 points more often than not.
Nice. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so in this last array as well, and this is, Eric would yell at me about this too, because I went left to right because how I felt, because I wanted to shoot left to right because I know I shoot left to right better. But one, I was entering on a no-shoot target instead of a wide open target, and two, it's hard to tell from this angle, maybe when we go to the first person you can see it better, but you can see that target on the right way earlier than you can see the target I entered on. But I told myself, I have to do a reload anyway, so I'll perform the reload, hit my spot, and then have my gun up, and by the time I have my gun up, the target should be there. It ended up working out pretty well, and I was able to shoot it left to right. At the end of the day, I think my right to left shooting is maybe just slightly worse than my left to right, but that could be something I need to work on a little bit more, and I maybe could have started shooting slightly earlier if I went right to left. I was actually the only one on my squad that went left to right.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But I knew at the time I wanted to nail that spot and just nail everything, and other than that one last popper, I got a little excited because I hit everything so well. So yeah. I got a little excited on that one. But other than that, I think I did nail this array. So I wasn't too unhappy about that shooting order, at least.
One more time before we go to first person, and people can see, I want them to see that you have a little bit more momentum. You're still moving slightly when you break that shot on your entry target, which we noticed that's a partial with a no shoot, correct?
It is. It was very close. It was like 5 yards away, I think, and so I knew I didn't have to be 100% stable for that target.
Okay, let's watch that. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I was mainly stable for it, regardless.
Sure. Nice. Let's bring up first person.
Yeah. So the first person I think is great because you can check your transitions much more easily on the first person than you can for the second person, right? And
Very good
you're gonna see so much room for improvement on this first person in terms of my transitions, whether it be a transition entry onto the next target or a transition exit off of the previous target. There's going to be a lot of imperfections here that I could clean up and probably save another second on just the transitions alone. So,
guys, our viewers, friends watching, I want you to take note that you have a extremely high level top shooter here, one of the best in the world. He just came off of winning a huge IPSC match, and he's extremely critical of his shooting. You see that he's cataloging things that he needs to work on and things that he wants to work on. He's not just praising himself. Mike is a humble guy, and it's one of the things we love about him. But one of the things that I take away from me with these top shooters, with these really good shooters, is he's very critical of his performance, and that's how you get there, and it's part of it. I believe it's very important.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that I'm critical of myself, but I don't put myself down. Like if I make a mistake, I identify it and I log it as something I need to work on. But I don't tell myself. Well, I jokingly tell myself that I suck, but like, in reality, I know that these are just things I need to work on, and it's just going to take time and practice like anything else. And it's not going to be a big deal. I'll work on it. Yeah. But as we go, speaking of,
that's huge.
Historically, my transition exits have been pretty solid. My entries, especially on more difficult targets, need a lot more cleaning up than my exits do. And you'll see it in this stage alone. I overshoot a lot of my transitions and take longer to fire that first shot than I need to because I'm so excited to get to that. I'm pulling off the initial target so hard and so excited to shoot the next target that I overshoot, and then it takes me a second to settle. If a perfect transition entry involves pulling the trigger as soon as that dot crosses the alpha line. And somebody whose videos I watch a ton, and Christian, obviously, the best shooter out there, and he is so good at that. Like you'll watch him in his first person videos shoot a super tight no shoot or a headshot or a tux or a mini popper at 20 yards away. As soon as that dot crosses, he's pulling the trigger because he's in control during that last 10 to 15% of his dot travel and just pulls as soon as he gets there. So I watch his videos a ton to try to learn that and work on that.
So well said, and such a great thing to pick out to analyze from his shooting and for us to emulate. He's so good at it.
Mm-hmm. Probably saves 0.2 seconds on average on every single target entry on that alone. So
that's considerable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mike, we are gonna go through here.
So there, if you pause right there.
Yes.
That's one of those times, in this case it was an open target, but it was a really awkward, like we analyzed before, it was an awkward entry into a target in a port that was a little bit low. I'm taller, so I had to get even lower behind a barrel, and I had to make a makeup shot on it because I was not confident on my first shot because I pulled it just slightly too early. But if I gave myself another tenth of a second, just a little bit more visual patience and called 2 good alphas on there, I would have saved 0.2 seconds or whatever the difference between that extra shot and the 0.1 second patience was or would have been, right?
Absolutely.
You can see that it takes me quite a while to fire that first shot, right?
On the partial, do you mean?
On the no shoot right here, yeah, because I overshoot it, come back, settle, and then I fire my shots.
Ooh, okay, that's great analysis. I mean, that's really what we're looking for, guys. At the end of the day, is that level of detail, like the Mike is identifying in his game, and I think we can learn from that as well. We just need to have that level of detail, and I think you identify that beautifully, Mike. Mm-hmm. You start to back up a little on the shot, didn't you?
I think
slightly.
If I remember correctly, my left leg is just kind of starting to move back just a bit on this one. Like I'm just kind of opening up my body a little bit so that I can twist out of there. This again, awkward position. So yeah.
This is incredibly awkward because now in first person you can see that you have to safely get around this wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my body's I'm looking to the left. I'm turning to the right. I have to move my body to the left, go around a wall. It was an awkward position.
Let's watch that.
So you see my entries, my exits and entries are solid there, and it doesn't look too bad in slow-mo, but in the real, I'm pretty splitty on those targets, and like I said, I remember distinctly not being 100% sure on that third partial target if I had 2 good hits on there, and I had already left the position. Thankfully they were there, But if you don't mind showing one more time,
Yes.
I start firing as soon as my dot is like in the alpha zone.
Yeah,
So
let's
that
look at
is good, but it was just a little bit too rushed. A little too rushed.
And Mike, for the purpose of definition, when you say splitty, it's a fast split, and maybe slightly faster than you would control wise would look for. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if I just took off a couple hundredths, the difference between a 15 split and a 19 split is 400ths of a second. And but in real life, a 15 split sounds much more, it's much faster than a 19 split. It sounds cool for Instagram, but the 400ths is the difference between being able to call two alphas 95% of the time versus getting a Charlie 30% of the time. I'm making these numbers up, but it doesn't cost you much to.
That's huge.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you much, and you don't have these brain farts where I say, did I hit that target or did I not? Not really sure. And then sometimes that causes you to be even slower on your transitions because you're not sure whether you hit that target or not. So you leave slowly. Your brain is processing it instead of saying, I called 2 good shots on the alpha. On to the next one. I'm good on there. 2 good shots here. On to the next one. So just calling those shots and getting good hits is just, at a certain level, the way to do it.
Oh, beautifully stated.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, your entries were blazing here.
Yeah, you can see that it's pretty quick and whatnot, but everything was just a little too fast.
Just a slightly too fast. Okay. Yeah. Okay, you're looking for the position. Left hand comes off the gun. Gun starts to come up. Boom. Guys, I want you to see that how he has the gun up in advance. He's not in a position to shoot this target yet, but he is going to be ready when it is. As soon as it's exposed from the side of this wall, he clears the wall, his gun is going off.
Yep, and you said it, but you can see through the walls so you can pre-aim that target. Right?
So you can pre-aim. I like that. It's called pre-aiming. Yes, a lot. There's so much time in there. So that's why I want people to be aware of that. It's a huge amount of fat that you can trim.
Mm-hmm. And something I actually wanted to mention earlier as well was in my first podcast I was advocating, go super fast. I don't care if you get the mic, just go fast, learn how to shoot with speed, and then the accuracy will come. And I want to stress that depending on where you are in your shooting career and your shooting skill, it's different, right? So that advice is mainly for people that feel like they're stuck in a rut. Their times are always slower than the match winner. Maybe C class, B class, to some extent A class. Learning to go faster, I still think is a great fun and easy way to become better at the sport. Once you start hitting that M to GM level, you simply can't run much faster than you already are doing. Depending on how you got there, and that's when you bring your accuracy back in, and that's where all these little tiny transitions and all that's when this really starts to make a big difference in your time compared to the top level shooters. Keeping your gun up into the position is something that you need to learn very early on, right? So if you're not doing that, that's the first thing that you need to do. These transitions, though, if you compare my time versus, let's say, an M-class shooter's time, a lot of times you will see that the time between positions, like our actual sprinting, our actual running and all that, our splits are probably similar. But I'm gaining 2 to 3 tenths of a second on every single target just on the transitions. And that's where that 2 to 3 seconds per stage is coming from.
Yes, yeah, great. Yeah, that's huge. And you look at how many transitions are there in a match and multiply it by that savings. It's massive. And I'll say that a lot of people, they hear the fast splits, and to them that's fast shooting. Mm-hmm. Where, doing 19s, 20s, 23s, 24s, but with like a 24, 25 transition, that's fast. And that's efficient, right? Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
And better hits.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so Mike looks down at the gun. It's such a cool looking gun.
I just do it for the camera.
I love that. I love it. You know what's cool here? In the shadow, you can see how close, you see the exiting mag. Yeah. And you're a few inches from point of insertion. Your focus is now on the gun. And very quickly, as it starts to enter the gun, it goes back out to where you want to set up. And then that entry target, which is a partial.
Yes.
So, boom, and he's got it up. Look at that, guys. Look at his line of sight. He's pre-aiming. Look at how advanced of this. Boom, gun goes off. Mike, I liked your transitions in this array. I think you were aggressive, and they looked really sharp, both on and off the target.
Yeah, I think that my transition exits on just about every target on this array were good. They were good. Some of, like, for example,
Nice.
that first steal, I wanted to settle the dot. Um, there are plenty of people that are much better at shooting steel than I am that can just kind of roll through it and kind of just pull the trigger as you're going through. Sometimes I do that, but
Sorry.
I knew in this array the key to success for me was to make sure all of my shots were called, including all the hits on steel. And if you see, I'm in the calibration zone there. It's not an extremely difficult target. It was maybe, I don't know, 15-yard popper, maybe a little bit less even, but I wanted to make sure I called a good shot on that popper so that I could afford to transition exit the instant that I pulled that trigger. So if you look at it, my entry took a little bit of time. I sacrificed a little bit there, but my exit was great, and I was able to nail that popper on the first shot.
Let's watch it again.
Right? It almost looks
Yes.
like my gun is moving like before I even. There's maybe just a little bit of input lag delay with the audio or something like that, but
Yes.
that millisecond that my gun goes off, I'm moving to that next target.
You're out of there. Yet you, like you said, on your entrance to this popper, you let it settle, which is what you need to do. I classify this as like or matchcraft. Like you could have gone there and shot like you're capable of shooting like a .2 between this paper and the steel. Would you do it in a match where it's on the line and you know one for one right here is a pretty dang good way to go?
That's all you can ask for with a steel array is 1 for 1, right?
Excellent. Let's go a little back here. Now that you've talked about it, I want to. Ooh, yeah.
Every single target, I'm whipping the gun right off of that target as soon as that last shot goes off.
Yes. You know, it was another one that was spicy was the second mini popper that's next to it's left of that red barrel.
Oh,
Back
yeah,
in the
one.
back.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
spicy. That was beautiful. Watch this. Guys, you notice he didn't really even park it very long. It was like, he's processing it's there and he's going. Now he's on a partial target that's Mike, I mean, first person's tough to tell the distance, but knowing this range, that might be 20 yards. I don't know.
I don't think it was 20. I think it was about 15.
Okay.
These cameras
15.
do trick you into thinking the targets are a lot further than they are. And to me, since I've shot the stage, my brain already knows the distance, but to someone looking, that probably looks like 25 yards, but I think it was closer to 15. It wasn't
15.
It wasn't super far. 15 to 17,
Okay.
18, I can't exactly remember. It's funny that you say that though, because if you go back one more time,
Yes.
you were talking about how I wasn't on that second popper for very long, and I actually think you can spot a mistake there, where I wasn't 100% sure. I transitioned off of it well,
Yeah.
maybe because I was in a groove. But if you look at my gun between that popper and that partial, I think you can actually see a slight hesitation of my brain trying to determine whether or not I hit that popper. And I don't know if I watched it fall or heard it fall, but then I get to the partial, and my split was pretty slow on that partial, not because I felt like I had to split on that. That's not a difficult partial, right?
Yeah.
That's basically just delta and part of the Charlie gun. But I think it was because I was thinking about whether or not I hit that popper or not. Does that make sense?
Let's see if we can pick that up.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I don't know. I thought I saw a small hesitation there. Maybe I'm.
It'd be interesting, maybe in when you were doing it, it did happen. It's hard to see it here.
Yeah.
I do want to. This is something that I had to be doing this for quite a while, and also at the time I was shooting predominantly iron sights. But guys, I want you to look at the lighting on the last popper on the right. Look at the way it reflects the light, lack of reflection. Look how the angle. That is not an easy shot, Mike. I know you've talked about you were frustrated that you missed it,
Mhm.
but in the walkthrough, when we look at this target, I'm like, and this again, this is from a guy who had to shoot iron sights for years. Lighting is a lighting and reflection off the target is absolutely a player in the game. And so you say, well, what do you do? Well, you just add confirmation to a shot like that. That's all. That's basically all you can do is you increase your confirmation, even 5, 6, 7 hundredths of a second.
Yep.
Does that
Doesn't
make
take
sense?
much. It really doesn't take
Yeah.
much to get that good confirmation on a target. And man, that shadow thing, I didn't even think about that. So that's something that maybe I should have added in the walkthrough, and maybe it would have turned out differently. But knowing myself, I also do know that when there's an array like that, and I nail the first couple, I do tend to get excited, and something happens on the last one or whatever. So
Same with this
it
guy.
could be the shadow, it could be me. Maybe we can blame the shadow. But yeah, it's if you look at it, if you wouldn't mind playing just from
Yes.
whatever the last,
For
just
this
yeah,
position,
just
Mike,
just
or
just a little bit. Yeah, this is fine. I just want to see those same three targets again. So.
yes.
Yeah, so I mean, and the entry onto that first popper, that first mini popper of the three popper array was pretty spicy, and I think
Spicy.
that's where I get excited, and then I immediately shot that big popper. It's bigger, so it's more forgiving, and I kept that quick momentum going on the last one, and that's where I was just rushing a little bit. I needed to give
Okay.
a little bit more visual patience on that third popper, and I would have taken probably another whole second off that time,
Yeah.
right? Because I had to, I
Or
yeah.
even up to 1.1 or 1.2.
Yeah, maybe even more
Yeah.
because I not only did I come back, but I missed it again when I came back, right?
Right.
So that
Right.
was, an additional transition and an additional 15-yard popper makeup. 1 point, maybe between 1 and 1.5 seconds even.
Yes. Yeah. Very good point. In hindsight, it's so much easier said than done.
So much easier, so much easier.
You
But
know, it's
that's the thing is,
yeah.
I lose a second and a half on one little mini popper here, whereas if everything was a little bit more controlled. And that's why even I was criticizing position three with those three papers. It worked out for me that time, but I easily could have sent one into the black on that third target, right? Or gotten a delta or whatever and messed that up. So just pulling back a few percent in terms of aggression and being a little bit more in control. Maybe my times are a little bit slower. Maybe they're even faster because I'm more efficient. But that's where you want to be. You want to be in that sweet spot, right?
Ooh. Mike, one thing that sticks out is your ability to self-critique and assess where you're at in such great detail. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started shooting, obviously I had a lot of guidance. The guys that I was shooting with and still shoot with today pointed me in the right direction, thankfully. But at a certain point, you need to be able to critique yourself if you want to improve. I know, like, people pay for classes and they like to have instruction and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you really want to excel, you need to be able to critique yourself and figure out what your lowest hanging fruits are by watching videos and doing analysis similar to what we just did here. And I don't know if I see that talked about too much, but that is one big difference I see in those who excel in this sport and those who sometimes tend to stay stagnant is just the ability to watch your videos and figure out what you need to work on for the next time. That's the only way to get better and the only way to know exactly what you need to do.
What a great point, Mike. That's such important advice and guidance. And I just don't see that, people don't talk about it that much. And it's so important. And you can tell that it's something that you've drawn on and has helped you. Because in my opinion, you've got to the top like so quick. Like I know for you, it's been busy and everything, but in the scheme of things, like it is quick. And I think that's one of your superpowers, so to speak. And I would definitely encourage everybody to start doing that. And yeah, just that's huge.
Yeah, you need to be open-minded. It's very easy. So the hardest part in reviewing yourself is opening up the video and sitting yourself down and taking the time to do it because it's hard to critique yourself sometimes. And the second hardest part after that is being honest and open-minded with it. So you can watch your run and say, oh yeah, that looked pretty good, that's fine, and then move on to the next one. But we just spent 15 minutes analyzing a 17-second stage, right? You can really break these things down to tiniest of details and pick it apart and figure out what you need to work on. So next time you shoot a match, make sure you get your videos. Third person is most important, but as you saw here, first person is also very useful. Sometimes it's hard to see exactly what your gun is doing in the third person to assess your transitions. That's where the first person is really useful, and just pick it apart. And yeah.
Outstanding. Mike, that is incredible. This has been an amazing opportunity. I appreciate you so much for sharing your time. I want you to get back to your lovely wife and your dogs and have a great meal. But I can't tell you how much we appreciate having access to your expertise and your knowledge, and you're winning, you're on fire. And it was really impressive to hear your breakdown. And please, let's do this again.
Absolutely, man. And the critique you were giving me, some of the stuff I didn't even think of. There were a lot of good points that you brought up too that even I hadn't thought of on my first few watch throughs. So I would love to keep doing this, and it'll make me better as well. So
excellent. Thank you, Mike. Great perspective from a champion. Guys, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been What Makes This Run Great. We'll have another one soon. You guys have a great rest of your day.
See ya.